Okay.
How are you guys doing well? Good, good to see you. How are you? All right. Over Jimmy. Jimmy. Who, here. Good to see you. All right. I think so. Hey, Jeannie, had said hello to you. Well. Good to see you.
Dr. Cunningham, this is Bridget. We have a quorum if you're ready.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, okay. Let's get going. I'm sure everybody has a lot to do. Thanks, guys, for joining us. I call this meeting of the Health Affairs Committee to order. Please help me to welcome Trustee Don Clark. This is his first Health Affairs meeting. As a reminder to everyone, please use a microphone when speaking. Before we start, Dr. Woodward, would you take a moment to introduce your team to Mr. Clark, please?
Yes, we are happy to do that. We're happy to have you. Welcome, Trustee Clark. And what we will do is just kind of run down the table and then go around the room if that is all right. So I'm Lou Ann Woodward. I'm the Vice Chancellor at the Medical Center, and we've had the opportunity to meet before. We're glad to have you here with us on the board. William, we'll start with you and then we'll go this way.
William Smith, of course, we know each other, General Counsel. Good to see you here.
Yes, and I'm Jennifer Sinclair, CFO for UMC.
And I'm Glenn Boyce, Chancellor. It's great to have you.
Rachel Gressett, I'm the Executive Director of Contracts Administration. Stacy Paul. Stephanie Jen,
Mark Ross, Executive Director of Patient Care. I believe it will be assessed by Jim. Scott Rogers, Assistant Vice Chancellor for Academic.
And I think he's joining us remotely today. I'm not 100% sure, but also on our team and usually at this table is Dr. Alan Jones, who's the Associate Vice Chancellor for Clinical Affairs.
And I am on the phone.
All right.
Well, sounds good. Sorry I couldn't be there with you guys this afternoon. If I can ever figure out this shortage of radiologists, I'll be in attendance a little more often. So, but Jennifer, if you would, you can start our discussions.
Okay, I'll be happy to. I think we're pulling up the financials. There we go. And you may have it in front of you as well.
Yep.
May was another strong financial month. I'm happy to report. So I'll orient you if I can on this page. To the left is the month to date performance. And then over in the middle to the right of the page is the year to date numbers. And then we've got over in green, the fiscal year budget for the full 12 months. So if you'll look again at the top section on the left, that's performance for the current month. And those are our revenue categories. Patient care revenue, again, is about 75% of our total revenue. And you can see for the month of May, we were at 141 million, which was $11.3 million over budget. So we continue to have strong volumes and continue to see improvements in our collection rates as well. And so patient care revenues strong. That was almost $12 million over same month prior year. Then state appropriations are consistent with what we would expect, and the other categories fairly consistent with budget, leaving total revenues 174.6 million, again 11.8 million over budget and almost 14 million over prior year. If you want to look at the revenue section year to date, you can see we're at 1.8 billion. Budget was $1,751,000. So we're running almost 81 million over budget and 155 million over last year. So again, very strong revenues, both for the month and year to date and compared to prior year. Then if we'll move into the middle section, you'll see these are our operating expenses. I like to look at salaries, wages, benefits, and contract labor on a combined basis. Those represent all of our true labor cost. And so if you do that, you'll see fairly consistent with budget when you adjust for the increases we've seen in volume. Specifically, if you look on the year-to-date section there, we are running about 2.7% above budget, but revenues were 4.6% above budget. And so you see those numbers a little higher than budget, but you can expect that with volumes in the hospital fluctuating, that staffing will do the same. So again, total expenses at 163, running about $10 million over budget and prior year. Year to date, you'll see those numbers again, also running above. But if you look at that operating EBITDA, so we talk about this a lot, but that's our profit before interest and depreciation. You'll see we were at $11 million for the month. We were budgeted at 9.7, so improvement over budget and 3.1 million over last year. Then on the year-to-date perspective, also now continuing to do a better than budget by 2.8 million and 42 million better than last year. Then that last section is your depreciation, interest expense, and investment income. And you'll see for the month, we are overall net income number of 4.6 million, right above our budget target of 4.5. And year to date, that puts us at 50.7 million, which is about almost $20 million above budget. I will remind you, there's some entries that we will make at year end. So if you think back to last month, there'll be some entries at year end. And so I do expect this year the performance to be even better than this, and we'll report that to you when we meet in August. Okay. The next line is, we like to do this just for those that like to see in graph form. It's a waterfall graph here. And again, this reconciles on the left-hand side, the current month of just May, what our budgeted EBITDA was. So earnings before interest and depreciation. So that was our budget. And then it reconciles over to our actual performance. And then we have in red and green where we're either above or below budget. So you'll see on the revenue sides, the big green, so patient care revenue was 11.3 million over. This just shows you proportionately the impact of those things that we just talked about in the previous slides. And so revenues look really good. Expenses are high, both in labor and supplies. But again, that will happen as volumes are up in the hospital. And then this is the same look on a year-to-date perspective. And so again, it's reconciling our year-to-date EBITDA to actual across the continuum. And you'll see patient care revenues again at almost $52 million above. And, good improvements on, we've got the supplemental payments of DISH, and then the cost report, or those things that were favorably settled for us this year. And so all positive. And the expense categories, again, high, but in proportion to our volumes. And then this is a little busy to see, but it's our balance sheet. And these are the two metrics I really like us to focus on. So you'll recall days cash on hand are one of the sustainability ratios that we're asked to monitor and have targets. Our target is 90 days with a plan to grow that over the years up to 120, I think is our target at some point in the future. But you'll see here, the blue line represents 2024 performance, and we're comparing it for you to 2023, and then have that target in gray. So you can see cash since December has continued to grow. There is some volatility in when payments come in from the supplemental payment models that we get. And so you will see some fluctuation in our cash from month to month, and that's what's causing this, but very strong through May. And we are projecting to end by the end of June closer to the 100 days, consistent with what we talked about in our budget last time. And then on accounts receivable, obviously, accounts receivable, when we collect things faster, cash comes in earlier. That helps drive the cash improvement. And so you see days in accounts receivable has trended down. It's below both last year and what we set originally as a target. And so those are all good news from a cash perspective. Do I, no, well, we reserve them. And so this is netted against the reserves. And so you all know that we don't get paid what we bill in a hospital. And so part of our close process every month is to look at how much was billed and then what do we expect to be paid on it. And so we're estimating from those accounts that have a payer, what the payment will be. And then as those accounts roll into self-pay, we look at trends of how well we're collecting over time and then set reserves based on how old the account is and who we expect to pay it. Okay, that's my report unless you have any other questions.
I had a question. I know, in the past, we had talked about, the different amount we're getting paid, you know, and you said the bill collection was better. Can you elaborate on that? How much better is it than, you know, how much better are we collecting?
Okay, so two things would drive that. And so we have talked a lot about renegotiating payer contracts. And so the rates we're contracted for them to pay us, those are factored in and will help drive it here. And then the other part is around our collection processes. And if you'll recall, we did a contract with Huron earlier this year to help us look at processes around our revenue cycle. I've been very pleased with the outcomes of that. They started that work in November. We're measuring now improvements. And so they've helped improve some accounts receivable. So AR is down and some of it's due to that work. But there's also been an improvement in our collection. So cash as a percent compared to what we used to. Through March, we had collected about $8 million improved trend that we could attribute to that work. And I'll report the final outcomes of that as we get closer to that engagement ending. But it'll hit the target improvements on an annual basis of at least a $15 million improvement in those efforts. And we did budget that for next year too.
Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer. Is there a motion to close the meeting to determine the need for an executive session?
So move.
All in favor, say aye. I vote aye. All opposed, nay. Okay, anyone not needed for the executive session is free to leave the room or disconnect. If you're not an IHL trustee, you're welcome to wait in the lobby. Trustees, please give us a minute to clear the room and make sure the appropriate participants are virtually connected.